I was hoping that was vodka, but no, it's just water.
Mass chaos in the transfer portal. Is it time to panic or should we just settle down? Let's get into it.
Hey, what's good, y'all? It's your boy JD6 here. I'm with my man. Shout out to KC Sports Authority. Make sure y'all go check that podcast out, man.
You heard the man. Welcome in to the KC Sports Authority podcast. We are live over here on YouTube and Twitter right now to give you a little bit of the portal update. And yes, that was Bill Self drinking vodka there at the start, because I got to feel like that's how he's feeling right now, JB, because this entire team has mass exodus into the transfer portal. Pretty much every single guy is in the portal to this point, except for El Marco, Jamari McDowell, Noah Shelby, and surprisingly, nothing yet on AJ Store. But if that's not how Bill Self feels, that's how I feel the last week. Now that we are a week into the portal, over 2,000 guys in the portal, it has been absolute madness. And we want to just do a quick update. We're not going to be going crazy tonight, just the two of us. Just want to get some updates and see where you guys are sitting. But welcome in, Keegan Russell, JB Merker here with you guys. Make sure if you are watching, you haven't done so yet. I don't know why you haven't, but smash that subscribe button below. Hit the thumbs up, like button there. If you're checking us out over on Twitter, hit that retweet, give us a follow on Twitter. Would love to get over 500 followers. We're getting closer to that. Maybe we'll do a giveaway if we get to 500. So hopefully if you're watching here on YouTube, you are also following us on Twitter. But let's get into it, JB. Noah's already got something here. Morris Johnson, yep, just saw him committed to Michigan. Are we going to have a 5 next year? Because if Flory isn't coming back, I don't know what we're doing there. Well, we're going to talk about that. Sully is already in full panic mode. I am panicking. I have been panicking the last 4 days, but I think that panic is starting to taper off just a little bit. But JB, what are you right now?
I'm kind of with you, dude. Like, I think I my first inclination is to say that we've been panicking since the last 2 months of the season. Like, we've known that it's just been a crapshoot, and every game has just been awful to watch, it seems. And then here we go. We lost in the round of 64 for the first time in how many years? Like, man, it's just brutal. And there's going to be some people that are looking at all these people that are leaving and panicking, and rightfully so. I don't know why, but in a way, I kind of feel relieved, because if you think about it, it's like, how many players do we want back from this team that was just dreadful to watch, right? And it's now there's people that are graduating. The main culprits of a lot of our frustration are graduating and leaving.
Yep,
and
that war is done. Despite the April Fool's jokes of Hunter getting a 7th season. I don't know if anybody actually fell for that, because it's ridiculous.
Not me. Yeah, it's one of those deals where I'm a little torn, because I see that all season long we've been complaining about DeJuan Harris. We've been complaining about Hunter Dickinson not having any effort, it seems, at times. And then here we are. It's like, okay, they're gone, and we're going to have people that can step up. But if they don't step up, what do we do? And we trust some players that are on our bench. Flory Badunga, my gosh. Can we talk about him in particular for just a quick second?
That's fine. So I guess before we do that, just real quick, quick update. Since we talked last, obviously everyone's paid attention. Rylan Griffin has declared for the portal. Doesn't sound like he's coming back, most likely. I don't know why he'd want to come back personally. We talked last week. I'd be in favor of him coming back year 2, but we'll see. Rakis Passmore was a little bit of a surprise when he declared for the portal, but just like Flory also said, he's leaving it open to come back. And we're going to have a conversation about that here too, about guys that are declaring but say they want to come back. But yeah, let's get into Flory.
Yeah, so this is the big panic button. Okay. Sully, I'm with you, dude. Like, when I saw Flory's name, I was just, it was complete and utter shock. I'm like, what is happening? We've got some insider insight, if I put it that way, that kind of helps ease the tensions a little bit. But the Spark Notes edition of it, for anyone that's old enough like me to remember Spark Notes, Spark
now
Notes
it's
edition.
ChatGPT.
Oh God,
Yeah,
I'm just like aging myself. But basically, he is leaving the door, of course, to come back because now he's got this no contact tag, and the narrative is this that he's he's in the portal to essentially just field offers from other teams, try to negotiate a little bit bigger of an NIL deal, and ultimately come back to Kansas. That's narrative number one. Narrative number two is very, very similar, except that because of the no contact tag, he knows where he's going to go. Maybe he already has his
yeah.
mind
And
made up.
other
Maybe it's
teams can't
Indiana. Maybe
already
it's Auburn.
can't do it. Yeah, yeah. So
Well,
let's do
yeah,
that. So the update on Flory, Indiana, Auburn, and Duke are the three teams supposedly that are talking with him. But yeah, the do not contact tag tells you that he's got his 4 offers, and right now he's mulling it over. And if I had to guess, it's what is Kansas's offer, and I'll make a decision after that. I'm sure he also wants to see. Like, to me, the biggest competition here is Auburn. I think Indiana is a strong number 2 with new head coach. But I think Auburn, they're going to have like 9 players leave the program graduating. Bruce Pearl's done a tremendous job. Johnny Broom looked really good this year. So I think Flory would be an interesting at Auburn. I don't buy the Duke stuff at all. I don't think that really does anything other than drive up the price. I actually think Arkansas would be an interesting outside one too to kind of throw in there. But I think it's honestly Auburn and Indiana that are driving this thing. Indiana makes a lot of sense. He played high school basketball there, of course. The frustration I have with the Flory thing, and I was listening to Derek Johnson's episode on it earlier on Locked On Jayhawks.
same.
It's the handlers, it's the agents, and this part of the conversation I want to have on this one tonight is less about the actual players in the portal and targets, but more about the situation as a whole. I hate what the portal and NIL is doing to the game itself. I am all for the players getting an opportunity to go get themselves paid now and have that chance to excel financially. It's great for them individually, but it has completely destroyed college basketball how we used to know it. You cannot build rosters the same way. You can't recruit the same way. Guys aren't looking to go play for a big time program anymore. They're looking to get paid. So you're going to have guys like AJ Diabonas, I always say his last, Debonsa. It's going to BYU. BYU is by no means a bad program. They're not a blue blood. They're not a top 10 program in college basketball history. And he's going there because of NIL. So I don't like what it's doing to the game. Unfortunately, it's changing it. You've seen a lot of these coaches already retire because of it. I don't like that the handlers and the agents are involved. To me, it's all a money grab. It's less about the player and it's more about if I get you the biggest deal possible, I get the biggest cut possible. And I hate that. I feel like that's what's happening here with Flory. Like Derek said, that these handlers are putting Flory in a tough spot here so they can go get the bag and take advantage of the fact that Flory is good at basketball and is highly coveted. So I absolutely hate that aspect of it. I think it's completely out of control. I mentioned at the top of this, there's over 2,000 players in the transfer portal. I don't think there's been 2,000 players in the transfer portal from 2000 to 2015, 15-year stretch because of that. So that's where it's at. But yes, Noah, I'm completely with you. The portal's ruining the game. It's ruining Bill Self's legacy. Again, I think this summer is going to be really interesting with Bill because how many more seasons does he want to do this recruiting stuff? And unless the NCAA figures out ways to control it and minimize the mass free agency freedom, I think it's just going to continue to be chaotic summer after summer, year after year. And it sucks for the game. I mean, college basketball was great because you'd get these star freshmen that would come in, and then you'd have these guys that develop. You'd have guys like a Tyler Hansbrough. Again, I know this is a KU podcast, but a Tyler Hansbrough, one of the best players in college basketball, a 4-year player. Look at just KU's past time. Some of their best teams, they've had 3-4-year guys. And college basketball, you're not going to see that as much because guys are not going to be in the same team for 4 straight years. You're going to have guys like AJ Storr, who have 7 teams on his list in 8 seasons from high school into college. And it's still weird that he has not declared for the portal just yet. Something
shocking, actually.
I haven't seen any inside news on that. I don't think Vern's even put anything out there about it just yet. But I don't like what it's doing to the game. Again, I love it for the players. It's great for them. My worry is that the more out of control this stays, the more the players are going to end up in a bad situation because I don't feel like many of these guys have that much control over what's happening. I also think, too, the way that it's changed, I don't know how many of these guys really care where they play as much now as they would have 5-6 years ago. Who cares if you have the nicest facilities if you're getting a $2 million check? Who cares if your team wins 10 games or 30 games if you're getting a $2 million check? We just saw it this last year with Rutgers, with Harper and I'm going blank on the other kid right now off the top of my head. But 2 top 10 recruits, and Rutgers had a bad season, didn't make the tournament, and they don't care because they're getting their bag and they're going to go pro. So I don't like it at all. It's completely ruining the way the game is going to be moving forward. It also makes it really challenging to build a team. Now, the positive spin on that, I think you can at least throw out there, is we're not the only team dealing with this. Every team in college basketball is going to deal with major roster turnover. Now, some programs have been quicker to figure it out than maybe Kansas has and Bill Self has, but at least every other team is going through what we're going through of guys are declaring for the portal. You don't know who's coming back. You have no idea what to go get. Do you go after college freshmen that are transferring? Do you go after high school recruits? How do you build a roster? So it's a mess. It's a complete mess. Ace Bailey. Thank you, Robert. Ace Bailey was the name I was slipping on there. Ace Bailey and Dylan Harper out there doing nothing.
This just kind of bleeds into the conversation of.
But right on cue, Darryn Peterson just had a dunk in the
hey, there we go.
McDonald's All-American game, which I have in the background.
DP, baby. Hey, quick side note is Darryn Peterson has doubled down on his commitment to Kansas. He has doubled down on his commitment to Kansas, and it's great to hear that because, I mean,
I take it back. That was not Darryn Peterson.
Oh,
it was a different Peterson. Hulu streaming. Well, first off, not to get on a tangent, but streaming live sports, I absolutely hate. It sucks. The stream is never quick enough, and so there's 22 and there's 24, and they're both Peterson, and it's going so fast that I thought that was Darryn. But I'm pretty sure Darren's wearing 22 tonight in the McDonald's game.
He is.
He doubled down on it. Said he's not going anywhere. Him and Bill Self had the exchange. Said, "Hey, I'm not worried. You're not worried." Again, I don't think, honestly, Darryn Peterson cares who's on this roster next year because he cares about getting to the NBA next year and just needs a really good season. And I think, again, that's my take on the college basketball as a whole. This is moving forward is how much do these guys really care about the team they play for and more of the situation it puts them in financially speaking. Like AJ Storr, had his girlfriend not transferred to KU to play basketball here, would he have wanted to come to Kansas? I doubt it. I think he'd go anywhere that the money is. And I think for me, that's the concern on how the game could get a little worse over the next few years is you're going to have all these mid-major programs that have done a good job recruiting and developing. They see those guys leave and go on somewhere else. And then you get guys that are top recruits that just want to get the bag and get to the NBA. And so they don't really care about where they go. And it's just going to make roster construction very tough. But
yeah,
that's where I'm at right now. I hate it.
So
don't like it.
In the same way that we are not so worried about Darryn Peterson now, I'm actually not so worried about Flory. I think I obviously had my moment of panic when I first saw it, but when I started to hear the narrative of, he's just trying to get a good NIL deal. And it's not even necessarily him.
I don't even think it's that anymore. I mean, I think that's part of it, but we've seen the other stuff that it's his camp has floated out there, coaching and situation. I don't buy that. I think it's what you're saying. They're using that as a way to drum up better NIL.
They're using it for leverage, and they're using it for leverage, and it's a little frustrating. Kind of makes you look at Flory sideways a little bit, like, hey man, like come on. Yeah, but like as much like Derek was saying in his podcast, there is no logical reason for him to want to leave in order to find a better situation, in order to find more minutes, in order to find a better coach, a better system. I mean, it's just, he's going to be the guy. He's going to be the guy. So for me, I have like 80% confidence that he's coming back. And I feel pretty good about that number. I feel pretty good about him coming back. And
the longer this drags out, I think the more likely it is he returns. Because if it wasn't the case, then I think he'd be elsewhere now. But I mean, Robert just put it in here. Personally, if they don't want to play for Kansas, let them go. We don't need them. I think that's an interesting take. I think that's a conversation that needs to be had. If you're Bill Self, if you're this coaching staff, regardless of loyalty to the player or not, if a guy enters the portal but says, "Hey, I'll come back if the situation and the offer's right, but I'm going to keep my options open," do you want him? Like, I don't know. I mean, I'm every program's going through that. I think a guy like Flory, yes, I still want him back, but I don't want to get in this leverage game back and forth, because if he does come back and Kate, bends over to give him a better offer than somewhere else, that sets a bad precedent moving forward for every other recruit and player. Raquise Passmore, I'd love to have Raquise Passmore back, because I think if he develops in the system, he'll be tremendous. But if he's using outside offers to just leverage Kansas, what precedent does that set for every other player in this program? So I'm not opposed to Bill Self and staff taking a hard stance and drawing a line and putting their foot down, that saying, "Hey, if you enter the portal, you're not coming back unless it's on our terms. We'll take you back on our terms, but we're not taking you back on your terms." So
Lay it down.
good luck, have fun. Best of luck to you out there. Like Zach Clements is probably the only example we've had of this. He went into the portal, wanted a better situation. I don't know the full details of what happened with UC Santa Barbara. Never enrolled in classes, never stepped foot on campus, so he was able to return and came back out of the portal to come back to Kansas, and of course, gets injured and is in the portal again. So I don't know. I think there are certain types of guys that you would take back. I think if it's not too difficult to get Raquise and Flory back, I'm all for it. I don't want to try that hard for Rylan to come back, because I think there's plenty of other guards like him out there. So again, I've been back and forth on all day. I hate what's going on. I'm very disappointed that these guys are going to the portal, but at the same time, every day another dozen top guys enter the portal. So there's an abundance of great players in the portal every single day to go out there and get and rebuild around. I just don't like what's happening.
Well, what's going to happen is the same stuff we talked about for the last 2 years, when we rebuild in such a manner to where we're bringing in all these transfer guys. I mean, they don't have chemistry together. My God, I don't care if we're the number 1 seed in the tournament. I don't know how far we can go under a whole new regime of players, right? But we want guys that want to be here. The best of both worlds would be if obviously these guys are gone now. We can't turn back the clock. The best of both worlds would be if we can get transfers that actually have a couple more years of eligibility, that actually want to stick it out, that actually want to play for Bill Self and play for Kansas, play for those letters across their chest, like we've been saying, and ride it out. And I'm happy. Like I said earlier, in a way that we can look at it, we can spin it like, hey, this team was awful, and the more pieces that leave, the better.
Which is kind of weird, because typically when teams return 60% of their starting production, they get better the next year, and usually teams that have to turn over most of their offensive production get worse. Auburn in the Final Four, and I think all 3 of their top 3 scorers are incoming transfers, new guys. Duke, obviously freshman, different story there. Florida, same thing. Walter Clayton transferring in. It's different, and I find it odd that a coach like Bill Self has struggled the first couple of years in this, more so than other coaches that are on his level of success. And again, we could split hairs on this all night. Is it Bill Self? Is it that trio that he had, and there's just only so much you could do? I think a lot of it was you were just so limited with that 3. So the fact that they're all gone is great. But I've seen a lot of KU fans on Twitter going back and forth on, do you feel great that this is cleaning house and you're starting fresh and Darryn Peterson's the centerpiece and you build around it? Or are you going, oh my gosh, like I think Flory entering the portal really freaked a lot of fans out, because it makes no sense. It leaves a gaping hole at the 5 spot. We have no big man. The fact that Bryson Tiller might go into the portal and leave and go elsewhere is still a concern, because everyone just could see exactly how the season was going to go with Flory running pick and rolls with Darryn Peterson and just Lob City. So I think that really frightened a lot of fans. Again, I was also on that boat of full panic mode. We're losing Flory. Something's going on here, and I want to get to a conversation piece on that. But over the last 3 days, I think I've settled down a lot more. Bill Self has not had any press conference that's made him sound like he's concerned, he's shaky. Usually when guys enter the portal, a good chunk of them are coaches saying, hey, if you want it, like Diggy, hey, we'd love to have you back, but if you want a better opportunity, I can't guarantee you the minutes and the starting spot here, so you should go do that elsewhere. You got 1 year left, go do
1
that.
year. Yeah.
If let's say it was, let's say Rylan was going into his last year in a different scenario and he'd already been here a couple years and I could see that. Like Rylan, I think it's Bill Self and coaching staff said, hey, maybe you should go look elsewhere. This didn't work for us. We wouldn't be upset if you want to do that. AJ Storr is the one that's so confusing to me that there's been nothing. It's been silence on his front. Again, I have said I don't have a problem with him coming back because I think year 2 AJ Storr would be much better.
He could be
especially
amazing,
without Hunter and KJ and DeJuan next to him. But yeah, it's wild. So yeah, Bob just put in there the big man from Arizona entered the portal. Yes, Henry Vasar, which KU saw him, another 7-footer, but more mobile than Hunter, can shoot a little bit better as well. Not as polished offensively, but definitely a better upgrade defensively than Hunter Dickinson, in my opinion. I think he'd be a great fit in Kansas. I have not seen anything yet on that, but again, he just entered today. We'll go through the portal here in a second and look at some of the names that are still out there. But JB, I did want to have this conversation because I started this on Twitter the other day. I can't remember if I tweeted from myself or if it was from the KCSA account. But a conversation I kind of started on Twitter with a few fans back and forth and some KU fan accounts is how much of what's going on with the portal talk and guys declaring that surprise us for Keith Passmore and Flory, less of an NIL thing and more of an actual coaching issue. We've talked throughout the season that there's a lot of assistants on this team. Every KU podcast has mentioned there's too many assistants and they need to have some turnover there. I kind of wonder if some of the portal decisions and guys that haven't committed here yet are because of a lack of trust in the full coaching staff and their ability to develop. It's come out now in the last week or so since the season has ended that there have been some rumblings from individual players in their camps and their families that there wasn't as much individual player development that happened throughout the season as would have expected. Some people had put out there that it seemed like a lot of the practices were rough. Guys were not bought in. Guys were having a hard time being engaged with the coaching staff because they feel like there's a disconnect. We all remember the things that Vern put out there about Zeke Mayo calling out the coaches and saying, you don't understand us. How could you expect this of us if you don't know us? So I do wonder if there is some of that because typically each assistant coach has 1 or 2 guys that they focus on developing with, and nobody got better this season. Like, I don't think you can point to a single player on this roster from the start of the season to the end of the season and say, you got better. Maybe you could say that with AJ. Maybe he just finally showed up. I don't know if that was actual development.
But he's been that good. And he just finally showed up. It's I'm right there with you, dude. Like,
to me, I think that's a concern. I think that the coaching staff has either got out of line. I saw somebody else post that the way preparation was throughout the week, he was all focused on game day preparation and not as much in between. Like, again, I don't know what happens in practice. I can't speak for what happens in practice. But one thing I have paid attention to for the last 10 years is Kansas basketball is a terrible free throw shooting team. We are never that good of a free throw shooting team, and guys don't get better at the line of their career. I have heard that they do not practice free throws as much in practice, which is concerning. I have also heard over the last several years that guys, Hunter Dickinson to be exact, and even a little bit of DeJuan Harris and some others, weren't spending much time outside of practice doing their own development. So part of me wonders, was the coaching staff saying, hey, our practices are limited. We only have so many hours we can practice with you guys as a team per NCAA rules. Our expectation is we hope that you go do some stuff on the side. And maybe that's not happening. And again, NIL portal is not. But a conversation was had several weeks ago about I'm gonna have to look it up again because I'm going blank. The TikTok star guy that played at Ottawa University, it's from Russia or Ukraine or somewhere overseas, that was working with David McCormick, Ochai Abaji, and Christian Brown and Jalen Wilson back in the national championship season. And there's a video going out there. And if you guys have seen this, great. If not, go look it up. There's a video of specific moves those guys were making in the national championship season that they learned that offseason in between getting destroyed by USC and Bill Self saying, hey, we need to go out and get more athletic, and then the national championship season. That guy had them in their gym here in Lawrence, and he was working on all those drills. So there's a video of you watching them doing those drills with him, and then they're doing those exact motions in the game. So circling that back to the coach, it feels like there's a problem with the coaching staff that is leading to a lot of what's going on right now.
Maybe they're too lenient. I don't know. Bob's in here. Let me throw this up. He said they're playing
100%. Hunter and Flory were out there filming their Call of Duty.
Yeah, dude. Hey, Call of Duty Black Ops 6, baby. You know, they're trying to get to Master Prestige over here. And, you know.
And so I think it's split. Some of it's coaching, some of it's on the players. You obviously I can expect you to go out and work harder in your own time, but if you don't want to, I can't make you. We've heard things like Frank Mason, first one in the gym, last one to leave, getting up so many shots after practice, Devontae Graham. So I think coaches get by a lot with hoping that you want to go do extra work on the side. And I think in this era, again, I'm not trying to call out certain individuals or anything, but if you look at the generation behind us here, the guys that are in college now and younger, this generation does not have the same work ethic. And I'm not trying to just crap on everybody that's young, but the work ethic of this generation is not the same. They are much lazier. They do not, they're not as ambitious with putting in the work. They want things to be handed to them. So I do wonder if some of it is players too of, 10 years ago, you'd get guys that roll in and, hey, I'm going to work hard. I'm going to prove myself daily and I'm going to get better. You had motivations. And again, I just wonder with the way the portal is and the NIL, what's the motivation to get better now? Other than you might get a bigger bag, but in reality, if your first year at KU doesn't work, there's 15 other programs out there that'll give you the same check, if not more, and take the chance that you'll work out for them. So it's a mess. It's a disaster. I hate all of it. It's ugly. It's messy. I said this on a podcast the other day, and it doesn't necessarily translate to this necessarily, but like imagine being in the kitchen and you're like looking at all these ingredients in front of you. Barbecue sauce.
Chili.
Chili. JB's making chili. He's got all of his ingredients lined up to win his chili cook-off. And
I got third place again.
There you go. And then he starts switching up. He goes, you know what? Instead of the hot sauce, I love peanut butter. Peanut butter is delicious. I'm going to add that in. You know what? I've decided I'm going to put vanilla ice cream in this. Again, I'm sounding just ridiculous myself too now. But the point is, you have all these individually great things that taste delicious and you love, but you mix them together and it doesn't work. And it just becomes this mess. And to me, that's just what it feels like college basketball is right now. Coaches and players alike, it's all crazy. But the actual conversation.
While I appreciate the analogy, I would actually try that because I'm willing to try anything. I keep getting third place. 3 years in a row, I get third place, dude. And I don't care. I know this is way off topic. I do not care. Who would vote for a veggie chili, a vegetarian, vegan, whatever it was? I don't mean any disrespect to that. I'm just like whatever. I don't know if it
that
was
means you had too many people voting that are vegetarians.
I think the girl that won that made a veggie chili, I think she had her little minions down in the newsroom at KNBC, and they all knew hey, chili number 5, that's the vegan one. We got to vote for it. I think it was a conspiracy. Like, how do you lose a chili contest to a meatless chili? You guys, come on. Like, I don't know what to do. It's like I've got the third place curse over here. Anyway, but no, there is talk. I wanted to mention this. There's talk about Bill Self. If he doesn't leave, why not just fire the whole entire staff
or something? Even just one.
with exception of maybe like Case, right? Case is still on there.
But yeah, Case gets a lot of crap, and I don't know why. Like he doesn't really talk a whole lot to the media, but he spends a lot of time doing the scouting on opposing teams, and is active in recruiting. But it's those old guys on the bench that have been here 20 years. Again, I have nothing personally, but what do you need KT for anymore? I get he's been big with recruiting, but you're at the point now where he's in his 60s. How is he relating to a 16-year-old high school kid, other than he also is liking
that's the narrative
pictures of hot girls all the time because everyone has said that about KP. Like, that's the only thing he can relate to with him. So Yeah, is it time for him to move
Dude.
on? Probably. Is it
I
time
think
for
it
Norm
is.
Roberts to move on? Probably. I would
I think
love
it
to
is.
know more about Chase Buford. You know, he comes from a winning background as a coach, and I don't know how much he had involvement in the X's and O's the last year, but it feels like, I mean, 3 years in a row now of fizzling out at the end of the season, things not working as well. Like at some point, you have to change something, and if you're not changing the head coach, which I'm not in favor of that, and you've already changed the players, and that hasn't done anything. I mean, you brought the same core back, but you went out and got guys. Then you got to change something on the staff, and that's just what happens. You usually
So,
change the coaching staff before you change anything else, and it feels like it's time for some coaching turnover. Get younger with the assistants. Doesn't even have to be a former KU basketball player like all the
although
fans
we
want.
want it.
Yeah, Marcus Morris would be entertaining. Tyshawn would be fun. Frank Mason, I think, would be my favorite. I'm
Yes.
more on the. I would love to see Aaron Miles on the staff. I think a guy that has been in the NBA, has scouted talent, has been a part of winning programs with the Celtics and the Warriors. I would love to see him on this group. I think a guy like him, a guy like Tyshawn, could go recruit really well. I think that's something that needs to happen, and it's been crazy. There's been no talk on that, and I'm not to throw them under the bus, but I want to put the KU riders on notice for a moment. Nobody's asking that question. Nobody wants to ask, hey, Bill, have you considered making any coaching staff changes moving forward that might better identify with the game of college basketball we have today? I don't know. You know, Bill Self is loyal to his guys. He's very, very loyal. We saw it with Juan and KJ, of course, but he's also very loyal with his assistants. He brought Joe Dooley back. And I don't have a problem with Joe Dooley, but I think the game has changed enough to the point where you need coaches that identify with the players now and the play styles needed to succeed. Other programs that have not been good, like Alabama has not been a good basketball program up until the last several years. Well, Nate Oates plays a fast-paced offense that's very fun for the kids, and so it's easy to recruit to that. Calipari and Bill Self, again, both still really good recruiters, but they play a more old school game. Cal has changed his up a little bit to go after certain types of guys, but you see a lot of these programs that are up and coming. They play a fast paced tempo. They shoot, they rebound. You know, there's very few programs that are still the old school basketball style that get it done consistently. You know, Houston being one of them. Kelvin Sampson, very old school coach. He finds guys that are just dogs and buy in, and then he's got one or two guys that can just shoot lights out and score. But it's getting much harder to build programs that way. And so I've been preaching this for a while now. I think we got to have some turnover at the coaching staff, and I think that's also partially why we're seeing some of these guys enter the portal and not stick around, because there's not as good of a relationship with a coaching staff that you would like to see.
Hey, Sharon's a winner. I just threw this comment up. Hey, we got to get Sharon. We got to get these. We got to.
Sharon's there all the time. He's at every game. He goes to practices. I don't know. I don't have anything against Sharon. I've had mixed reviews. Some people I've talked to said when he was at Free State, he was rough with the way he handled kids, and that Tyshawn did a lot more of the work as his assistant. I've also heard flip side that Sharon's a great guy. You know, he cares a lot for sure. So I don't know, but something's got to change with the coaching staff, because you can't turn over the roster every year. Now, 2 years ago when we lost 7 guys, you were intentionally pushing all those guys out. You were bringing Hunter Dickinson in, and you were revamping the roster. This go around, it doesn't feel like it's all quite that, because if it was, you got to think Bill Self is saying, hey, AJ, kick the curb, man. You know, go eat grass and find somewhere else to play.
So I kind of wonder about this then. If we're going to talk culture change, if we're going to talk a serious change in culture is needed, how much do you think a conversation between the Kansas team, whatever's left of it, and whoever decides to transfer in and be a part of this team next year, a conversation between them and Lance Leipold, how much would that be a benefit? Because I know it's two completely different sports, but hey, Lance Leipold, I don't think anyone can argue that he didn't change the entire culture of KU football.
I don't think that conversation for the players does anything myself, But what I would do is I would look at how Lance has put his staff together. And you look at Coach
Yep.
Gildersleeve, Coach Gildersleeve, strength and conditioning, sports science, all that kind of stuff. But he's the hype man. He's the culture hype man. He gets the guys bought in at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning when they're coming in for workouts and weights. And I think something like that, to me, that's Coach Q. I mean, if you look at this coaching staff, Coach Q has been there a long time. He is the hype man. He's energized. He does his Monday motivational things. If you follow him on Instagram, shout out Coach Q. So I think I like that. To me, it's you've got 9 assistant coaches on this team, and nobody knows what they do. Brock Sadler's an analyst. Nobody knows what he does. KT sits there, and Vern's been thrown up in all of his podcasts last few weeks of him staring at the. Like nobody knows what he does. Norm, I think, actually is part of the X's and O's along with Jeremy Case. But it just feels like you've got so many guys on that bench, and at some point, like there's too many cooks in the kitchen. Even if those cooks aren't doing anything, they're just standing around watching the head chef cook. It just, if you got to have some turnover. You got to enhance the culture. We've said it on last week's episode. For those of you that joined us for the 2 hours we talked on that. You got to go get guys that want to fight and want to play hard and dogs, guys that Bill Self has traditionally been successful with. He hasn't had players like that for 3 years now. Jalen Wilson, I think, was the epitome of that the last 5 years. KJ was close to that, just didn't fit in with this group. But you went and got a guy like Hunter Dickinson who was soft and just not a winner. And so it's time to switch on that. Good question here. How many more years does Bill Self have left, though? He says he feels like he's going, like he's still going to go a while, but you do wonder with the way the game has changed and the way recruiting has been impacted by the NIL and the transfer portal, at what point does he get tired of having to turn over the roster so much and have to work even harder to get guys to stay here? I think that also further tells you need a GM on the team that is focused on that. So Bill doesn't have to do anything. He can just game plan and be the face. Bob, I think he retires after this year. Very, very well could. I think obviously Darryn Peterson is a lot of excitement for him. So why would you want to go anywhere?
Oh yeah.
Now, if this year's another disaster year, then maybe he says, "Hey, I'm done with this." But personally, I still think he's got 4 or 5 years left in him, unless the game itself continues to go down this path and it gets worse as a body of college basketball and just gets much more challenging. Because I got to think at some point that takes the joy out of coaching when you're having to constantly worry about NIL money and getting donors to donate more, or hey, you bring in this guy for NIL and he doesn't get the minutes he wants, so now he leaves. And at some point it's got to get frustrating enough that it's just not worth the energy put in. I've said this all season long. He doesn't have the same fire since his heart problems. I completely agree with that. He doesn't coach with the same tenacity. Now, that doesn't mean he can't still be a successful coach, but if that's the case, then he's got to have an assistant on his staff that does that for him and can drive that point home. Noah again says, I think he does, but the scare made him realize that there is life after basketball. Yeah, I'd agree. And again, he's in the back end of his career. We've seen coaches coach into their 70s. Bill, what I think is 61, 62, early 60s.
Don't ask me.
I do think he wants to retire before 70 for sure, so that he's got some years to really spend with the family. The next 5 years is for sure. His fist bump to music.
Dude, Bob, it was probably. I would hope it was nothing. That's all I'm saying.
That's great. But
I think Bill, it's tough. The more I talk about it with you, the more I talk about it with, my other friends that are never on this podcast, but they should be, because we
hopefully
talk about it all the
this out,
time.
though.
They are. They absolutely are. I'm like, you guys just got to hop on one time real quick. But we all seem to have this collective opinion that if we have another year that's just a complete and utter disaster, and side note, it's kind of looking like it's going to be that way, even with Darryn Peterson. It's like, hey, if we can't fill this roster, it's going to be a disaster. But if we have another year, we're all in favor of Bill Self leaving and calling it quits. And I hate to say that. I really do. I don't. In my heart of hearts, I do not want him to leave yet. But it's becoming very apparent that players are tuned out, that they might not really be vibing with him and his style anymore, and his old school way to coaching. Maybe just look. I'm not
It's
ever going to
harder
sit
to
here and
keep
say it's
that
wrong.
up. You got to have the right players
Yeah,
around him. He just didn't have the right group these last 2 years. So again, I'm still on the side. Yeah, I think he's got several more years left, unless this just gets harder and harder. But yeah, I didn't see many times this season on the sideline where he looked like he was enjoying the game. Like there were
yeah,
a lot more times this year where you could see the frustration on his face, and instead of getting in his typical like rage you would see, because pre health scare, you would see a lot more of that rage and intensity. I think he just kind of threw his hands up a lot and
yeah.
just
Like
went,
I give up.
yeah, and that's alarming. First off, as a coach, to see a coach stop, because he got out coached a lot this year, X's and O's specifically. But I think, again, we said this over and over. I think a lot of it was he didn't have trust that his guys could do it. So why put in that much effort? It sounds terrible, but I think it was, hey, let's get through the season, be done with this group, move forward. Darryn Peterson's great. Let's retool. So let's spend a few minutes here as we kind of wrap up retooling. Let's look at the transfer portal. I'm going to pull up here on 24/7. There have been some changes since last week. Some guys, Donovan Dent, big transfer portal target, did not land him. He is going elsewhere. I think he's going to UCLA.
Lame.
Dayton Thomas, another strong guard. I think he's going to LSU. Josh Dix, though, they met with him over the weekend. Met with him, and then he came for a visit. Sounds like it's down to Kansas and Indiana. I would say Indiana's kind of leading the way on that one. It makes a lot
Like
of sense
why?
style-wise. Indiana
Hold
just
on. Why does that make sense at all? Like, I mean, Indiana missed the tournament this year. Are
because
they expected to
new
be in there
coach,
next year?
Coach DeVries, is familiar with Josh Dix. Josh Dix is from Omaha, I believe. DeVries was at Drake. Yeah, he was at Drake. And so he's familiar with him from Iowa and recruited him. So I think that's there. I still think there's a good chance KU gets him. But as we look at the updated portal,
Like a
somebody
space
mentioned it
war.
earlier. Let me scroll back up here in the comments. I think it was Noah that put it as like one of the first things. Yaxel Lundeborg would be nice. I agree. He's the highest rated recruit in the portal right now. Has also declared for the draft. Good chance he gets drafted in the first round. So I think he'll kind of weigh his options there. If he doesn't go pro because he thinks he'll get a better NIL deal than what he could get as an NBA contract, then yeah, sign me up for him. 6'9", 230, good athlete, best player available currently. RJ Luis Jr. out of St. John's also declared for the portal, 6'7" wing. Very good season with St. John's, can score, still kind of wild the way that ended and him riding the bench after a bad game. And the conversation there was kind of awkward, but he's available. But Adrian Woolley, another guy we looked at, he's gone. Bryce Hopkins went to St. John's. He's gone. Keyshawn Hall, to me, Keyshawn Hall is the one I'm circling. I think he makes a lot of sense. He had a good Zoom call with the coaching staff this weekend. He's been taking Zoom interviews with several teams. But I think Keyshawn Hall makes a ton of sense. I don't know what the holdup is on that personally, but I do think that is very good. Robert, you're putting West Virginia. I don't know what that is in regards to. Well, I know that Coach DeVries was at West Virginia this last year, but I think he was at Drake before that, before Ben McCollum. So he's familiar with recruiting Josh Dix. But yeah, Josh Dix and Keyshawn Hall to me are still the top two out there. That would be a good fit alongside Darryn Peterson. I think Keyshawn Hall, if I had to bet on it, I'd say there's like an 85% chance we sign Keyshawn Hall this week. I think I feel
Whoa.
pretty good with that. Floyd Badunga, of course, could come back. I would still take it, but we're going to have to look at some big guys here in a minute if it's not him, because some of the other guys have gone off the board. Malik Renault is one I've been talking about a little bit. I think he'd be an interesting fit, even if he's playing the 5, small ball 5. Magoon Guath, one KU fans would have loved. He already committed to Kentucky, so he's off the board. Michael Vertage also off the board. Was not in the portal very long, but KU looked at him. Right now, from what I've seen, there's not very many big men that KU has had a lot of conversation with. But Henry Vasar, of course, right here from Arizona would be great. I thought this was interesting. Nigel Pack, former K-State Wildcat. I didn't even realize he was still in college basketball. I think he got a medical redshirt year with Miami, but that would be interesting. He's a guard that has been able to play on ball and off ball. I think that'd be interesting for him to come back to Kansas and play for the Jayhawks, but that could be intriguing there. KJ Lewis, I also saw with Vasar entered the portal today from Arizona. Good athlete. Trayson Eaglestaff, one I liked, gone, South Carolina. But the portal right now is starting to guys are coming off the board. Now, that doesn't mean that there won't be other guys that pop up. Abdi Bashir Jr., another one KU has talked to out of Monmouth, good size wing that could do a lot. But the portal's starting to slow down, JB. Not slow down, but the guys that you would want immediately are starting to come off the board. I still like Mackenzie Mbako. I don't think he would come here, but I still like that. Christopher Tilley is probably the most other likely big man that still makes the most sense. KU has been linked to out of Santa Clara, 7 foot, 240. Wouldn't mind that. But let's stop talking guards for a second. Let's just go to big man, because if Flory does not come back, you got to have someone play the 5.
Flory's at the top.
Flory's at the top, of course. Nick Davidson out of Nevada is the next highest rated guy left. Henry Vasar. Like, to me, I think if KU is shutting the door on trying to retain Flory, I think Henry Vasar makes the most 100% makes the most sense. Because outside of that, there's not a ton of guys on here, unless you just feel like you could be good enough with Bryson Tiller if you can get him to stay, being the 5-man. Ole Miss big man, I think it's John Bull entered the portal, another tall, skinnier big man, but I think he'd be interesting. But yeah, a week in, it's not looking great for options. As I catch back up here, Quamari Peterson, yep, he's been on a list I've looked at. The kid from Sam Houston. I'm going to have to look that up because I can't think if that is off the top of my head. But options are starting to slow down. Again, I am not that worried. I think Bill Self will figure it out. There's going to be guys that want to play, even if he goes a little bit under recruited guys. I think we'll be fine. So what has started as major panic for me has slowed down to let's just wait it out and see what happens. Again, JB, I don't remember if we already said this on here, but I said this to you beforehand. I think the conversation also that's having some merit is, are all these guys that are entering the portal doing it because that's what this new age of college basketball is, and you have to keep your options open, so it's what's best for you is to go into the portal, or is there something else going on? Like, I think
it's something else.
I think these guys are putting into the portal because their handlers and their agents are telling them, hey, don't settle for what you have now because there could be a better offer out there. And if there's not a better offer out there, then at least you have the relationship with the staff you have so you can come back. But again, I think that's a dangerous game that college basketball is playing. I hope that can change up. Like, I know you can transfer every single season, but I think there should be a limit to how many times you can transfer. I'm fine with you can play right away for sure. I think your first time you can play right away. If you transfer again outside of a coaching change, you have to sit a year or something, because it can't just be willy-nilly freedom all the time, transferring program to program. Or you're going to get into a semi-professional look where guys sign contracts. So if you come to Kansas, you're signing a 2-year NIL contract. And if you decide to leave mid-contract, then guess what? You either have to pay back part of the contract you were given or everything is voided out. My understanding, and I've been trying to get somebody that's in the NIL scene to come on and talk about it, to kind of explain it to us, because it doesn't make any sense to me. A lot of these contracts they sign, the players get paid up front, but they don't do the work till later, where they don't do like the Flory Freddie's thing that he's doing, that he's got set up. I think that was paid out to him way before he did anything, because I don't think they don't have that much time to do everything, of course. So I would love to know how that works. Do these guys get paid up front? Is it a, hey, we'll pay you X after you get to Kansas and you perform A, B, and C? What do those conversations look like when you're talking to a kid from a recruiting standpoint? What does that look like with the businesses that are forking over the money or the donors forking over the money? I'd like to know the details of that. So if somebody wants to help us out that's got the hookup with somebody in that can explain it, let me know, because I would love to have a conversation with somebody who's way more qualified to speak to it. I do like this from Bob. You aren't guaranteed a spot if you go in the transfer portal. I think there's several ways to look at that. If you are entering the portal, you are not guaranteed a returning spot on the roster next year, but you're also not guaranteed a spot anywhere else you go. Programs are going to throw money left and right and throw up these guarantees of what they're going to have you do, and then it doesn't work out. I'm sure part of the conversation with AJ Storr was, hey, if you come in and play hard and play in the system, you're going to have an opportunity to compete for a championship and develop your game. That didn't work. So was that KU's fault? Was that AJ Storr's fault? I don't know. The point is that all of this, throwing the money in and the opportunities there, has made this very, very messy. And I don't know if it's going to make the game better in the next couple of years. It might after a couple of years where we see a lot more parity across college basketball, and programs that wouldn't normally get recruits are going to get, like again, BYU. BYU is not normally going to compete for the number one high school recruit in the country, but NIL gives them that opportunity. So I do think that's great from that standpoint, but it has made the game very messy and has left me with a lot of concerns. But of course, this happens every time as we start to wrap up. Our viewership starts spiking here, but I don't have that much else I wanted to add on this one. There hasn't been much else going on. There's a kid out of Drexel that I'm forgetting his name off the top of my head right now that K's been linked to. A lot of 6'7" guard wing players, which I like. Athletic wings that can shoot, can score, and hopefully are versatile defenders. But yeah, to me right now, priority one is, if it's not Flory returning, it's Keyshawn Hall, and then priority two is, who the freak is your big man?
I think if we get Flory to return, and assuming El Marco is running the point to a certain degree, I know Darryn Peterson can kind of ball handle as well, but at some point, this roster can actually develop into having a very similar roster to 2022, where you have a point guard, you have a guy that's willing to dish it out, that doesn't need to be the guy in El Marco. He doesn't need to be the guy. But he can be if he has to. He's definitely not as afraid to take a shot. That's what I've noticed.
Yeah.
But then you have a great big, and then you got three wings. I mean, if we had three wings that were starters, I would start to think, oh wow, like this is looking a lot like 2022, which ended in a national championship for us.
It does feel like the guys KU has been targeting in the portal, that they've been linked to the most frequently, are those big-bodied athletic wings that are versatile 2 through 4 type guys. They might not be strong enough to play the 4, but they're quick enough, athletic enough to do so. And that's very reminiscent of 2022. Now, I think 2022's team very much benefited from Jalen Wilson being an ideal 4 for that group. Jalen Wilson hit the boards hard, was a versatile defender, and could also be a backup ball handler if need be. And had a decent enough jump shot at that time to make a difference. But yeah, that type of guy, the Kevin McCullough type guy who's gritty, who's going to put his body on the line, play hard defense, those types of guys are the guys that are going to fit in well. So I want to throw this question out to you as we kind of wrap up. I was going to tweet this earlier and just haven't done it yet. But if we look at Flory, Rylan, I'm going to throw AJ Storr in there, Rakees Passmore, and I'm going to throw Bryson Tiller in there for this question too. So those 5 guys, over under 3 of them returning.
Ooh.
And which 3?
But okay. First of all, it has to be a half. Like 2.5.
I think if it's 3.5, I take the under. If it's 2.5, I might take the over, because I think
I'm taking the over.
Until we see something else. AJ Storr is back, so there's 1. I think Bryson Tiller stays. That's 2.
Yep.
Maybe it is 2.5. Over under 2.5, because I do feel like there's a legitimate chance Rakees Passmore
I think Griffin's
is back.
gone. I
Yeah,
think
Griffin, I
Griffin's
don't think
gone.
he's back at all.
Honestly, I think Passmore's gone. I'm going to say that now.
I
The
haven't
more
seen.
think
Let me
about
look
it.
up real quick. I haven't seen much of where he's been linked to.
I mean, I just feel like maybe just him leaving seems a little odd because it was like, man, dude, you're a freshman, and yeah, you got some minutes. Maybe you
I
could
think
have
he was
argued.
frustrated, which again, that was something I want
Yeah,
to bring up on here too. I think he should have got more minutes than he did. And unfortunately, the minutes he did get were in poor situations. So he didn't really have an opportunity this year to showcase anything. So when he did look bad, it was because he was also put in bad moments to try and have an impact. Yeah, I haven't seen anything about him of who he's been linked to on any other programs. But his camp also said, hey, we're going to enter in the portal just to weigh our options and get the best situation possible. But Kansas is still at the forefront of where we want to be.
yeah. To me, Bob. Yeah, they can't leave if Bob is buying their jerseys. That's for sure.
Shoot, you
We
can't
have
buy jerseys anymore.
you really can't not in this day and age in college basketball.
I
For
guess you could buy a
me,
Jamari McDowell jersey or El Marco.
I'm not. This makes me sound really mean. I'm not excited about a Jamari McDowell jersey. Come on,
Dude,
I'm
number
not.
11 is a solid number.
It's a pretty cool number. That's a pretty cool
I
number.
think McDowell and El Marco are going to have bigger seasons than most of the fan base is going to give them credit for. And again, that really is going to depend on who all gets here. But so if we set the over under at 2.5, Noah's taking the over. So Noah, who are your three guys returning? So yeah, if you're still watching on here on YouTube and you're paying attention, I said Rylan, Flory, Rakese, Bryson Tiller, and AJ Storr are the five guys in this conversation. If you're taking over 2.5 return, who are the three guys that are returning to this program? Or who are the two guys that you are confident not coming back?
I
JB's
think
saying
it's
he's confident Rylan's not back. Who's the
yeah.
second? Is it Flory?
I'm confident that Flory is coming back. I'm confident that Tiller's coming back, and I'm a little 50-50 on Storr now because maybe Storr is going to be like,
That's a wild
dude,
card.
he's so it's. I started to say it earlier, but it's just so ironic that we going into the end of the season, we all thought the one guy that's for sure transferring is AJ Storr, and we still haven't heard anything yet. It's
Why
just kind
would
of
Bryson
hilarious.
leave? I do not pay for the VIP for Vern stuff, but Vern has something in his VIP for those that have it that have mentioned Bryson's camp is entertaining the portal and looking at other offers because of uncertainty in the coaching staff developing, which goes back to that conversation earlier of is it time to change coaches, assistant coaches.
Yeah.
We haven't had a true big man developer since Danny Manning left, and that is very evident. I think David McCormick and Landon Lucas are the two best cases of development. I think Udoka always had the raw talent. It was just getting in the gym and putting the physical part together with it. But we need a big man developer. So if it's not bringing Danny Manning back, like I've been telling a few guys, I'd put in a call to Nick Collison and see what he's doing. He's down the Thunder front office as a face/scout. I think he'd be interesting. I've always wondered why Wayne Simeon hasn't been an assistant coach, but maybe if Marcus Morris retires, he is the guy. You bring him on staff and he's your big man developer because he did develop pretty well. Not only did he develop a jumper, but he had some good post moves. So I think that's what it is. Yeah, Bob, I agree with you. Again, that's why I don't pay for the VIP. It's not that I don't believe the stuff Vern puts in there, but I think a lot of it is to put stuff in there that are real conversations that are going on, but I don't know how much legitimacy there is to it because a lot of teams, it's the same thing in the NFL and the NBA when it comes to trade rumors. If you want a better offer, you're going to float stuff out there to get people talking to hopefully drive some leverage your way. So that's kind of where I'm sitting. Noah, excited for Jamari and El Marco. I agree. So your three are Bryson, Rakese, and Flory. AJ Storr. AJ Storr isn't leaving. Again, that to me, that's the wild one. We'll have to kind of see what happens with him over the next couple of days because it is odd that he has not declared.
It's weird, but I wouldn't mind it if he leaves because there's still a part of me knowing all the names that we're linked to with all of them coming in. It's like,
Well, has he not left
I don't.
because him and Bill have had the conversation of, hey, if you come back, here's what we're going to do to make your fit better? Maybe.
Yeah, maybe. I'm not sure if he has a fit. I'm gonna be honest. I'm not sure if he has a fit. He looked great in like one game this year.
But again,
And
you put him with a more up-tempo style offense with a rim-running big man that doesn't take up space, and you don't have KJ next to him. There's lanes open for AJ to work in. But yeah, Bob, just to follow up with what you're saying there, Mike puts in what he hears. 100% agree with that. I think he does have great intel. I'm not doubting the intel. And there's a Darryn Peterson dunk right on cue in the McDonald's All-American game.
are you sure about it?
Yes, that was Darryn Peterson for sure. That definitely, I can see the hair. That is definitely his hair. Yeah, that was nice. Fast breakaway. Gets a steal, tips it to Darryn Peterson, and he dunks it. But yeah, I think Mike puts in good intel for sure. I just don't know if the source it's coming from, how much I buy into the legitimacy of what the information is that is given. What I do completely buy into is that I do think there was a major frustration amongst the team this year with the coaching staff as a whole, and vice versa. I think the coaching staff had a lot of frustration with the players not executing and developing, but I also think there was a lot of frustration back to the coaches of the puzzle pieces weren't fitting.
Fire half the coaching staff, get in some good people from the transfer portal that have a couple of years more of eligibility, and revamp this culture. And I think we're talking about a great Kansas program that can come back from this round of 64 loss and make
100%.
a huge run next year and compete for a Big 12 title. Absolutely. And hell, I mean, compete for a national title. If all things are put together, I still believe in Bill Self. I really do. I hate saying that there's still a chance, if we have a horrible year next year, I'm probably going to be in the camp of, hey man, I think it's time to hang it up. But you know what? Darryn Peterson, dude, he's the type of guy that can change a program. He's the type of guy that can come in and just make us winners again. So let's build around him and let's call 100%. It a roster. By this time next week, we might have a couple names that have already said, "Hey, I'm coming to Kansas."
Yeah, and I'm sure
this podcast is going to look a lot different. These conversations are going to look a lot different here in about a week or two once we have some more names.
Yeah. So chaos in the portal. Is it time to panic? I think like Bill Self's doing here, let's settle down a little bit. I think we've got long ways to go over this spring and summer of building out the roster. Last couple of things here in the chat. Kansas Husker. Why would anyone want to continue to coach in this environment? Yes, the money. Money talks. Money does talk. At some point, though, you have enough money where you go, is the money I'm getting worth the mental, physical stress and frustration of doing the job every day to where it takes the enjoyment out of the game? I think that's where we could see things go if college basketball stays the way it is. Yeah, Mike said a week ago that all the people in the portal would be in there. 100% he did. It's just still weird that there's nothing on AJ. I don't get it. But anyway, we'll wrap up there unless anybody else has any other thoughts. Noah, since when can Bill not develop big men? That's funny. Something else going on.
Yeah.
I
agree.
Norm Roberts is the big man guy, and he's all of 5'7". So there's your answer. I think it's also personnel. KU, that's one thing. Okay, just not to dive in too far in that conversation. KU hasn't had a lot of turnover at the 5-man spot. They've typically had the same 5-man for like 2-3 seasons straight, up until this point with Hunter. So the development, I don't think it's that there was a lack of development. I think it was bringing in Uday, Zuby, and Clements, and then having KJ, and then of course Cam Martin. You had 5 guys to play the 5, and there was no game plan on how that was going to work. They were all different types of players, and Bill Self has never been the guy that has multiple 5-men, big men play styles. He plays a certain way, and you fit around that. So Cam Martin comes in, stretch 5, not a back to the basket 5, didn't work. Ernest Uday did not have the offensive range yet of post moves. He was a good rim running pick and roll guy, but KJ was a better defender, so KJ got the minutes. Zuby was very raw at the time and didn't have the skill set and the tools, and Zach Clements just didn't quite fit. So I think that's where it started to go downhill, because if you look at McCormick developed over his 4 years.
He did.
But he also had Mitch Lightfoot next to him too, another guy that was solid at what he did. And before that, you had Doak, and he developed in his several years. Landon Lucas was nowhere near what he was senior year in his freshman season. You also had a decent enough talent in Jamari Traylor playing the 5 back then, and then a quality 4-man in Perry Ellis. And then even with Joel Embiid, of course, super developed in his quick year, but also had Tariq Black alongside him. And then back before that, then you're in the Danny Manning. So I actually think the development of big men have been fine up until the last 3 seasons. Again, everything changed after winning the national championship. I'm okay, though, taking the national championship, meaning we get 3 seasons of you still won a national championship before that, so I'm okay with that. But yeah, it's time to start fresh and revamp. Kansas Husker, my advice to Bill is finish the next season, and if you're not happy with the finish, I would ride off into the sunset. The coaching business is not what it was 3-4 seasons ago. Completely agree. Yeah. KJ beat them all to start. Otherwise, he would have never been a starter. Agree there. I also think there's a world if Hunter Dickinson went to the draft this last year and KJ was the starting 5, we actually would have been decent. I think KJ has played better as a small ball 5 with the right guys around him. And a couple seasons ago, he had Jalen Wilson next to him. So that definitely helped for sure. Yeah, so I think the big man development question, I think is still valid if you take away the last – if you only look at the last 3 seasons, because Hunter did not get better in his 2 seasons. You haven't kept anybody around to be the backup in those 3 years. And it's been a lot of turnover at the 5 spot. But again, Bill Self is a guy that typically plays the same guys. So that's part of it.
And we didn't talk about Zach Clements, but
we didn't.
There's nothing to talk
Rough
about.
Career, man. Rough career.
Pretty
good recruit.
I'm not going to mention who it was, but a buddy of mine was like, "Oh, I think he's going to be he would do really well if he transferred out." And I'm like, "No, he's just garbage." Oh man,
he's just an in between. I would guess he'll probably either go to a lesser Power 4 school and start somewhere, or he goes to a D2 school and just ball out. But you feel bad for him.
I feel bad for him, but I'm not going to miss him.
No, he hasn't made an impact here.
Not at all. But
yeah, I mean, fans have talked about, what if we kept Zuby and got the development he got. Again, we're not going to rehash that conversation, but at that time, you take Hunter Dickinson over Zuby 100% of the time. You take All-American Player of the Year caliber 5-man over Zuby after a freshman season 100% of the time. But yeah. Okay, that's about all I got. I know we're rocking over 120 in here right now, but I don't have much else I want to get into in tonight's episode. I think we kind of covered some of the portal updates, some of the targets we're still looking at. We had plenty of the NIL talk. I will continue my search and try to get somebody on here that can talk more with us about how the NIL landscape works and what the day-to-day that looks like in regards to the conversations with players and handlers and coaches and agents and all that. But yeah, we'll probably do another update over the next week or so. I'm not going to do all the deep dives into player targets. I think Derek is best for that. So go check him out for sure. We're going to do more of just the bigger conversation on roster adjustments, impacts. We'll react to some moves, but I'm not going to do all the deep dive into all that stuff. I think KU, again, the only thing I'll say is KU needs dogs, they need athletic wings, and we need a big man. You do those 3 things. I don't care what the name is of who the player is or where they come from, but if they're a dog, if they're athletic, and one of them's a big man, I think we'll be okay, because Darryn Peterson's the real deal. And I think Bill Self's the real deal. And I think he's got a lot of motivation to get back to where we have traditionally been. So yeah, we'll wrap up there. Make sure you like and subscribe here on YouTube. Smash that subscribe button. Thank you to all of those in the live chat bar. If you're watching this later,
Thank
still
you, guys.
comments in there. Your thoughts on the way the roster is looking right now. If you're listening on Spotify, make sure you give the podcast a follow. Give us a 5-star review. We'd appreciate that. Hit us up on any of our social medias. You can follow us at KCSA Pod. You can also check JB and myself out over on Twitter at Keeganator_11 and at Call Me John Bruno. We have all sorts of fun stuff to pop off there. And don't just come for the Kansas talk. We've got Chris Tenpey and I have a lot of Chiefs and Royals talk going on. We'll start doing a little bit more football content here into the off season. And then I'm going to try and dabble in some other sports topics. So make sure you're always checking us out for all of that and everything we get into. But that will wrap it up on this one. Until next time, we will catch you guys in the next episode. Stay calm.
Rock chalk.